off to a clean start. Lindsay Kent, she came to the sport after watching the 2010 Olympics, former ringette player, and now here she is skating for a national championship, getting things underway. Now, Leo, we saw earlier on in the men's 5,000 meters, a skater by himself not do too bad of a job. So, again, when someone's skating on their own at this kind of distance, what are they focusing on when they're by themselves?
Skaters, whether they're by themselves or with a pair, will be focusing on making each stride count. Skaters are looking for technical perfection with every stride, not making any mistakes, getting the maximum amount of pressure out of each push. As Lindsay Kent comes around here, she's chasing a personal best, as we mentioned earlier, of 4:17.77. That's an average lap time of 33.8.
She's under it early on. Still a long way to go. Kent, a fourth place finisher at the Canada Games in 2015 in this distance. That was again in Fort St. John during the Prince George Canada Games.
The 3,000 meter is much like the men's 5,000 meter in that it is a long distance race. The skaters will be looking to set a pace early on in the race and try to hang on to those lap times throughout the rest of the laps, as Lindsay Kent hanging in the mid to high 32s, right on pace with what she needs.
She'll set the fastest time as the first skater to go today, a third of the way through this race, still 2 kilometers left.
It's a great opportunity for her to race on her own in the first pair. She doesn't have to think of any other times. Nothing but her and the ice.
All the attention of the fans who have made the trip out here focused on one skater. 1,400 meters gone. That lap time 33.41. Dipping a little bit into the 33s.
So the 3,000 meter, a 7.5 lap race. It's much shorter than the 5,000 meter. So skaters have a little bit more leeway to start fast and lose a little bit of time by the end of the race per lap. So Kent comes through just dipping into the 34s. And it looks like she really went for it at the start of this race, and let's see if she can hang on.
The ladies will do their own 5,000 meters on January 9th, so Tuesday. Today it's their 3,000.
So Lindsay Kent, young skater here coming around. She will have 2 laps remaining when she crosses the line. Notice she's starting to swing an arm. Often skaters will swing an arm in the last lap or 2 of the race to try and keep those legs driving forwards.
2 laps to go for Kent into the 35s, into her lap times. She set a time at the trials when she finished 9th in this distance in October of 4:22.81.
She's entering the corner here. When she comes around, she'll have 500 meters remaining.
See the expression on her face. She's feeling this one twice more on this final stretch. Gets the arm down, trying to drive herself forward up to the bell lap. That lap time clocks in 36.31. She's losing a little bit more time. Less than 400 meters to go, though.
Lindsay Kent will come around, change lanes for the last time. She's doing a good job of keeping those strides long. You can definitely see the fatigue starting to set in with 1 corner remaining.
Rounding the final turn, Lindsay Kent, hand on her thigh, trying to keep it together. Less than 100 meters to go. Pain etched onto her face. Kent rousing a round of applause from the fans at the line. 4:23.17. Last lap time 37.77. So laps got sort of progressively slow for her as the race went on.
And 4:23.17 is the time to beat. After our first and only skater, Lindsay Kent.
Getting things sorted out for the second pair. Callie Christ will start this one. 26 years old, out of Regina, and she'll go up against Carrie Morrison. 26 years old as well.
Callie Christ, a middle distance specialist. 1,000-meter and 1,500-meter races are her jam, but she can pull off a good 3,000 meters. Carrie Morrison, also a mid-distance skater. So expect a tight race. Both skaters' personal bests within 0.3 of a second.
So one spot is already secured for next month's Olympics in the women's 3,000 meters. That's Evgeny Blondet. She's pre-selected. 2 other spots are available, but a number of criteria have to be satisfied. So just one secured for now, and other skaters are trying to chase after those as well.
Absolutely. The skaters must reach the Special Olympic qualifying standard time of 4:03:48. That is the top 16 time on the world circuit, or the ISU rankings in the past year. 4:03:48. Over the 3,000 meter, that is an average of 31.9 seconds a lap.
Christ goes through the first 200 meters, 20.84, 21.43 for Carrie Morrison.
So skaters who are coming up in the following pairs who have reached this qualifying standard are Evgeny Blondet, who is pre-qualified for a team spot. That means that there are 2 spots remaining. Isabel Weidman, Josie Morrison, and Victoria Spence have all met that standard.
Christ competed in the 1,000 and the 1,500 at the Sochi Olympics. 21st in the 1,000. She finished 16th in the 1,500, but there was a doper ahead of her, so moved up to 15th. Carrie Morrison recently switched over to the long track discipline in the 2015-16 season. She's competed at 2 World University Games as well. Christ with the lead coming up to 1,000 meters. That lap time 31.82, 33.03 for Carrie Morrison.
So Callie Christ on a great race here. She has a lead on Lindsay Kent through this portion of the race. Don't forget, Lindsay Kent slowed down a lot in the latter portion of her 3,000 meter event. See if Callie Christ can avoid that fate.
Christ put a 4:10.86 time in the fall trials, good enough for 6th.
Christ has been battling hip issues, missing a lot of races in the last 2 seasons. She keeps her lap times down, 32.08. Morrison trying to keep pace, 33.3.
2 different styles there. Christ keeping her arms, both arms on the back. One arm drops for Carrie Morrison until they round the corner there. Christ has the little band on her back. Is that to keep the hands in place there?
Some skaters have a hard time keeping their left hand on their back throughout the straightaway. Tends to jump around a lot, so sometimes skaters will attach a shoestring to their waist and stick their thumb in it.
Christ still comfortably in the lead. Almost 5 seconds up on the time set by Kent, coming up to 2 laps to go.
Carrie Morrison is turning it on. She dropped her lap times into the 32s on that last one.
Is it a case of too little too late? She has a long stretch to make up. You mentioned not a lot of time to sort of work your way into this race in the 3,000, not like the 5.
3,000 meter, much shorter, 7.5 laps.
Both
Morrison
skaters
has
same time that last lap.
So Morrison has 2 laps to catch up. Callie Christ still looking strong as they switch lanes on that backstretch. Christ has 7 seconds on Lindsay Kent with 1 lap remaining.
Christ coming up to the bell. Morrison trying to chase her down after getting into a bit of an early hole. 34.11 that last lap for Christ. 33.2 for Morrison, so that's taking out almost a whole second in 1 lap. Lots to cover, though, in the final 400 meters. Christ dropping both arms, just trying to get to the finish line.
Christ is right on pace with her previous personal best. 4:10.86 is the time to beat. If she can keep this next lap in the 34s, she has a chance. Morrison coming strong on the inner lane. It's a strong finish from Carrie Morrison, but it won't be enough. as Callie Christ will finish up with a final time of 4:11:35. Morrison 4:12:55.
Last lap there, 1.8 seconds the difference, as Carrie Morrison really did close things up there, Leo. You know, if you're Chris, you look at that last lap and there's a lot of drop time there.
Absolutely. I bet she probably wishes she could have those last 2 laps back. She lost about 3 or 4 seconds there.
You mentioned, though, injuries. It's always tough to come back and do a distance event, as we see there the top 3 after 2 pairs. Chris is the fastest skater, 4:11:35.
It was a great race for her, very close to her personal best, under half a second off. And on such an important day, Canadian Championships, that's exactly the kind of performance you'd expect. So Chris, mid-distance specialist, doing well.
Pair 3 coming up. Victoria Spence, 25 years old. Abigail McCluskey, 21 years old, out of Calgary. Both were 7th and 8th at the fall selection trials, paired up here.
Victoria Spence, the eldest sibling of a speed skating family.
We saw one of the Spences earlier today.
Absolutely. Her younger sister, Josie Morrison, will be racing in the final pair coming up in just a few minutes.
Spence is out of Kamloops, British Columbia. Although Victoria, born in Edmonton first. Spence with the fastest time, 4:11 flat, set it in November of 2016. McCluskey, 4:10:06, set a couple months ago, September, here in Calgary as well. Close off the start, about a half-second difference between the two of them.
So McCluskey and Spence have similar personal bests, just over 4:10.
And it's McCluskey out to an early advantage. Puts a half second on Spence in that last lap as they make the exchange. As Leo likes to say, McCluskey going over the top around Spence and into that inner lane. McCluskey's off to a stormer right now, 17 hundredths back of Christ at that point. But as we saw, Christ faded a little bit near the end, and McCluskey was key for her. Leo, I'm guessing, is keep it consistent like this. She's seen people fade so far today.
Absolutely. And she's keeping those lap times down right now, but the challenge always is those last few laps, particularly if the ice happens to be a little bit slower. Skaters will sometimes take it out fast, aiming for an ambitious time. And if they're not careful, it might come back and bite them at the end of the race. See if McCluskey can avoid that fate.
McCluskey, who's skated at the World Juniors before in China a couple of years ago.
These skaters chasing the selection qualifying time of 4:03:48. Don't forget, Canada has 3 spots in this distance. Evanie Blondin is already pre-qualified for one of those, so she will be in Pyeongchang. But 2 spots up for grabs. Skaters must achieve that 4:03:48 time, though. So far, only 2 have, Blondin and Isabelle Weidman.
McCluskey seeping a little bit of time away. Spence coming into her own a little bit. Pulled it back for the second lap in a row. 32.91, 32.82 for Spence as the gap closes up. Looks similar to the last race where it sort of closed up at the end.
So McCluskey still hanging on to her lead, but Spence closing the gap as they will come around with 2 laps remaining. Spence has her pair in her sights now. She comes down that stretch. McCluskey fading a little bit, 34.1. She dropped 2 seconds in that last lap.
Big gap there. You try to pull it back, Leo. 2 laps to go. What adjustments can she make with 2 laps to go? The lead is fading. Spence is looking comfortable and getting a draft there.
The only thing she can do here is try to stay low and stay strong.
You see the burn on her face.
Absolutely.
Coming up to the bell, McCluskey hanging on for dear life. She'll get one more time on the inner lane and then try to hold off Spence coming down the stretch.
And Spence, as she comes around this outer corner, will have McCluskey in her sights. Big target on her back as they cross over on the backstretch.
Let's see what Spence can do. Get a little bit of draft down the backstretch, chase her down a little bit. Looks like Spence is making a move up the inside, has closed that gap, and now she's got that inner lane to her advantage. It looks like Spence could pull away here and take the pair. Spence inside 100 meters, started slow, finished strong, wins the pair here. Good race for her as she gains speed as the race went along. 4:12.19, second fastest time. 4:13.40 for McCluskey, good enough for fourth place.
So Callie Christ holds off all challengers, maintains her spot on the top of the leaderboard. 4:11.35. Victoria Spence with that strong finish made a play for a top spot, just falling short.
Pair 4 of 5. Up now is the aforementioned Evgenie Blondin. She already knows where she's going to be in February. Now it's just a matter of finding out to see who, if anyone, will join her. She's not teamed up. Isabel Weidman is in the other lane. She's on the inner. She won the fall trials here with Blondin coming in second.
That's right. Pair of elite, internationally qualified athletes in this pair. Evgenie Blondin, veteran of the world circuit. Isabel Weidman in the last 2 years having a couple breakout seasons. She has had some very good results.
Weidman 9th on the World Cup in this distance in Heerenveen last year, and then 7th, and in Calgary, 9th in Calgary as well, and 7th in Salt Lake City. Blondin finished 24th in Sochi in the distance 4 years ago.
So these two skaters, the only two female athletes racing this 3,000 meter race who have the required qualifying standard of 4:03.48. So these two skaters will duke it out. Blondin is pre-qualified in this distance to make the 2018 Canadian team, and she's getting a big draft on the taller Isabel Weidman on that backstretch. Smart move from Blondin.
As they come up to 600 meters, it's Blondin with the early lead. She came 4th in the World Single Distance Championships in Korea last year. Made the switch from short track at the age of 20. 4 years later, she was at an Olympics, and now she's going for number 2. Blondin out of Ottawa. Weidman also out of Ottawa. See two completely different styles here. Leo, the taller Weidman and the shorter Blondin. What's advantageous in a distance like this?
In speed skating, you see athletes of all different sizes. It's actually one of the beautiful things about this sport is that skaters with all different types of body shapes and sizes can post very good results. Typically, long-distance skaters tend to be a little bit taller.
I'll never forget the 98 Olympics where there's big, tall Jeremy Wotherspoon going up against Hiroyasu Shimizu, and there might have been 2 feet on them, and Shimizu, the shorter one, came away as the winner on that day.
Well, exactly. There's a trade-off there. The taller you are, the longer your stride length, but the shorter you are, the less air resistance is in your way as you skate.
Blondin still in the 31s, Weidman down into the 32s, both ahead of the fastest time set by Callie Christ. Blondin has a bit of a lead here, just over a second ahead of Weidman.
So Weidman got the better of Evgenie Blondin at the Fall World Cup selections just a few months ago. So Blondin is looking for revenge here, and she's leading her pair still.
Blondin 31.88, Weidman 31.81, so closing the gap a little bit. And using that inner lane, it's going to be Weidman with a little bit of a lead, and Blondin once again getting that draft, Leo.
So smart from Evgenie Blondin. It's almost as if she's planned her race in order to get those drafts. That's 200 meters now where she has not had to push as hard throughout this race. That can have a huge impact by the end.
Weidman took this at the fall trials. Blondin wants to get it when it matters with a national championship on the line. 31.98 was Weidman's lap. Blondin 32.17.
this is still a close race. If you look at those lap times, Isabel Weidman gained a little bit of time on that last lap. Let's see if she can do it again. Blondin, though, she's a fighter. Does she have an answer? As Weidman will come out of this inner, she's closing the gap.
Closing it, less than 500 meters to go. Now there's the bell. 1 lap remaining, 32.31, 32.23. So Weidman inches that little bit closer. Both of them are ahead of Callie Christ's time. And now it's just a drag race between the two of them, it seems, with first place on the line. Again, Blondin and Leo. Look at that draft.
Amazing. World-class performance here from Yvonne Blondin. Isabel Weidman also on a great race as they come down to the final stretch.
Looks like that little draft might have paid dividends coming down the stretch. Blondin coming to the line, fastest time on her mind. There it is, 4:04.31, 4:05.01 for Weidman. Those are the 2 fastest times, and they were close up until, looks like that little draft might have helped her down the stretch.
Absolutely. Blondin got Weidman in the end by less than a second. Those 300-meter stretches where Yvonne Blondin got a big draft, they probably made the difference for her. So Blondin showing her experience in setting up those laps.
So Blondin knows she'll be on the podium at the end of the day today. One more pair to go. Coming up, just about ready to go. Brianne Tutt, 25 years old, out of Airdrie, Alberta, coming up against Josie Morrison. Leo mentioned her earlier. She's 23, out of Kamloops. She's a Spence by name and a Morrison now by marriage.
As the crowd cheers on Yvonne Blondin with that great time to beat, 4:04.31.
Tutt at the fall trials was third with a 4:08.42 as a personal best for her at the time. And Morrison was fourth with 4:08.53. So this could be another barnstormer down to the finish between 2 evenly matched skaters. Tutt making the Sochi Olympics in 2014 after coming back from a pretty serious injury. Now looking for another good finish at a national championships.
Expect these 2 skaters to really go for it in this race. They need a time of 4:03.48 in order to qualify for the 2018 team, or in order to be eligible for the team. Neither of them have that qualifying standard this year. They require lap times of 31.9 seconds per lap. And Tutt taking the lead early. 6 laps remaining.
31.15 on that lap time, Leo. 31.88. After 600 meters in the 31s, are they going to come into this race a little bit the more we progress?
I think so. Josie Morrison taking it a little conservative in that first lap.
She is still faster than Blondin, who picked up steam as she went along. Morrison about 3/4 of a second behind the time set by Blondin.
So Brianne Tutt, 31.4. She is still on pace. We've seen the last few laps from every skater in this 3,000 meter event slow down, so we'll see if Brianne Tutt can keep her lap times fast. She'll need to if she wants to skate that qualifying standard in order to have a chance at qualifying for the 2018
Smooth, long strides
team.
from Tutt. She comes 1,400 meters. That lap time, 31.63, 9/10 of a second up on the time set by Blondin at this stage. Blondin sitting in the hot seat in first place, watching as a bit of a challenge is being put to her time.
Brianne Tutt really going for it. She's chasing that gold medal here at the Canadian Single Distance Championships. That time to beat was set by Yvonne Blondin. And Tutt now just under a second faster through 1,800 meters. She has 3 to go.
Now you mentioned the importance of these last couple laps, Leo. is it hard to not get carried away, get excited knowing you're on a great time and maybe burn a few little matches too early?
This is that mental game these athletes play. These last few laps, if they start thinking about the finish line and stop thinking about their legs and their technique, it could cost them. As Brienne Tutt dropping an arm on the straightaway, trying to keep it going. And her lead over Blondet has dropped now to 0.2 of a second. Maybe she's thinking about that finish line too
Two
much.
laps to go. Morrison now almost an identical lap time. That's a big drop off in Tutt's time. Just a 0.2 of a second advantage over Blondet. The grimace on her face. She's feeling it coming up to get the bell.
Tutt needs to bring this lap down. She's giving it all she has.
There is the bell. 2 turns to go, 1 lap to go. Drops behind by a second on Blondet. 33.66 that last lap. Tutt in the lead for so long, now seeing it drift past her. Blondet waiting at the finish line, looking up at the clock.
Tutt right now hanging on to 3rd place. Blondet and Weidman ahead of her. See if she can hang on to that bronze medal as she comes around her final corner.
Final stretch for Brienne Tutt. One arm going, drops the second arm, charging to the line, trying to hang on to a podium spot. Will she get there? Brienne Tutt hangs on to 3rd, 4:07.52. Josie Morrison, 4:11.38 for 5th place. So Tutt in the lead for so long manages to hang on to a bronze medal position here, Leo. He's almost drifted away from her, but credit to her, you'd have to say, for just hanging in.
It was a valiant race from Brienne Tutt. She knew the time she had to beat, and she left nothing out there. She started on the right pace and just couldn't hang on.
There is the final standings, the top 3. Brienne Tutt, 3rd place, 4:07.52. Isabel Weidman, 4:05.01. Evanie Blondet in 1st place, 4:04.31. She is the 2018 Canadian National Champion in the women's 3,000 meters.
So this is the selection competition for the 2018 Canadian team. We will not have any official team spots, as there are many amazing Canadian athletes, but only 10 athletes get to go to the games, and so trying to pick 10 athletes over 7 events is quite the challenge.
Including the team pursuit.
Including the team pursuit, including the Mass Start event, which is a new event coming up here in 2018.
You'll see, though, I imagine some skaters, Blondet has a good chance of being in a few events, and
Blondet, in fact, is pre-qualified, so Blondet will be there. And Isabel Weidman setting herself up well with a good opportunity here.
And winning the gold medal with a time of 4:04.31, Evanie Blondet.
She's like, don't come up on this one, let's go down.